27 of the Unmapped podcast. On this podcast, we talk about life, upbringing, education, ideas, morals, current events, politics, passions, and more. Today, we have Gregory Tam. We're going to be talking about everything.
That was a very official intro. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
How long did that take to write?
25 episodes of attempts of me just saying things randomly in the beginning.
And how long have you been using that intro?
This is the third episode that
I could tell because you didn't have it memorized.
Yeah. It's going to take me a little bit before I memorize it, but for every single episode until the 25th one, I just tried out more things because I wasn't sure what I really wanted to include in the podcast.
Right.
But it ended up being basically everything.
Okay.
But I wanted to let people know that I will be including everything. So for you, like, we're going to be talking about everything. What I usually like doing is starting off with background, so like upbringing, and then focusing in more on like high school, then college, and then kind of what you did in college, what you plan on doing after college, and just like along the way, we'll talk about everything in between.
Oh, so we're going to get pretty deep here.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. All right.
What we do on the Unmapped podcast.
All right.
Shout out Haley Rock, if she's out there.
She's watching it on my laptop probably right now. Okay. So start off with...
Yeah, so start off with like upbringing. I guess like if you want a little bit on your parents.
Okay.
Because I think that's important coming from an immigrant family always.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into high school and college.
Okay, so I was born in Staten Island. The forgotten borough that everyone always loves to talk smack about. Are we allowed to curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Everyone loves to shit talk Staten Island, but all you viewers, Staten Island is lit, okay?
Staten Island is not a borough. It'll have you know I'm from Queens, and I don't count it.
But it's better than the boroughs. Anyway, I was actually not first generation. So my mom was born in Brooklyn. My father, however, was born in China, but he was born in Hong Kong when it was under British control. Okay. So he's technically not a Chinese citizen.
Okay. That's actually the same thing that happened to Alex.
Yeah.
Alex lived in Hong Kong. He was there when it was under British control.
Yeah. So my dad actually moved here when he was very young. He was like 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
So I come from a very Americanized Chinese family. I speak English at home.
Did they settle in Staten Island when they originally got here?
No, they settled. They were.
Your mom was from Brooklyn.
Yes, my mom was from Brooklyn. My dad lived in Manhattan.
Okay.
And after they got married and were pregnant with my sister, I have an older sister. She's 4 years older. After they got pregnant with her, they moved to Staten Island because they kind of wanted to remove themselves from the city environment, which I understand.
I'm more on par with that now.
Yeah.
My parents moved from Queens to New Hyde Park last year.
Yeah.
And I miss the city, but at the same time, I really enjoy the tranquility of being more in the suburbs.
You have a younger sister, right?
Yeah. So it's for my siblings that they did that.
There's more consistency when you're not in somewhere so crowded and busy. But yeah, so I'm, I guess you consider it first and a half generation because I'm first generation on one side, but I'm not on the other. But even on one side.
But even with the fact that your dad came here when he was like, what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, he was very.
He's basically your second, close to second generation.
Yeah, essentially.
My dad came here when he was 12. So like way back in the 80s. And, there's nothing about him that's, not American. If you talk to him, he doesn't have an accent in the slightest. Right. And he's, went to high school here, went to college here. So, there's no distinction. So
that's pretty much my dad. My dad, my dad doesn't have an accent. It's just my dad didn't go to college and he didn't grow up with a good education because he was from the Asian generation where it was work. I'm pretty sure there's a point where he worked at a sweatshop and he doesn't like to talk about that stuff. But yeah, he sounds different, but in the fact that he uses like slang almost. Okay. But yeah. So I grew up in Staten Island. I went to Catholic school for 9 years.
I didn't know that.
Catholic school is all right. It instilled a lot of good morals and beliefs in me. But I was also only one of 2 Asian kids in the entire school. And there was only, in my grade, 1 black person and 1 or 2 Hispanic Latinos. So the minorities were very outnumbered. And obviously when you're young,
Yeah. So this is when kids are savages. This is when your parents are already in Staten Island?
Yeah, this is in Staten Island. So I went to...
Did you ever live outside of Staten Island?
No, I've lived in the same house I've never moved.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah. So the most experience I had of moving and getting up and actually taking my stuff and moving somewhere else was into college. Okay. And then obviously in college I also transferred, which I guess
we'll get into that. Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I went to Catholic school. I did like Catholic school. I owe a lot of the person that I am today to the values I was taught then. And I always have an inner debate of whether I think Catholic school would be good for my kids or not. But I guess I'll decide that at a future time.
It really this is a whole subject. Let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like when I was younger, my parents sent me to like Islamic school on the weekends, but it wasn't like an entire school. Like it wasn't like the entire school was religious based. Whereas one of my friends, he was on one of the podcast episodes, he went to Islamic school that was like his entire middle school career was the Islamic school. So like he'd have regular classes,
right,
and then he'd have like the Islamic classes on top of that. But he ended up in the same place that I did, and I think it's interesting just because it depends on how that institution teaches the teachings.
Yeah,
because like there's some schools that come from that religious background that won't teach things like evolution or biology.
Yeah,
and stuff like
some
that.
people are too rooted.
That's what I'm saying,
and they don't change.
So I think it's really dependent.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of... I still consider myself a Catholic to this day, but there are definitely a lot of things that I don't necessarily agree with everything in the Catholic Church. But I guess that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, then high school, I went to a public high school. I went to Staten Island Technical High School. Shout out to any Seagulls out there. We were the Seagulls. The most intimidating mascot you could possibly be.
Why Seagulls? Is there a lot of seagulls in Staten Island?
I think in the relative area, because Staten Island Tech was by the beach, so there were a lot of seagulls.
Man.
Why? I feel like a lot of people say that.
Have you gone on a beach?
Actually, yeah. I used to live at beaches, so I think I'm used to seagulls.
That could be.
But I guess I do understand.
If it was you versus 3 seagulls, I think you're gonna lose the fight.
I don't think so.
I think I would.
I disagree.
I would lose the fight.
I think you could just grab them.
Yeah, if there's 3 of them though, you can grab all 3.
Grab one. Just
this is why I said.
Well, first of all, I don't promote animal cruelty, but
Peter's not going to say anything. This
is under the conditions you're being attacked.
This is a hypothetical situation where there are 3 seagulls fighting you. So I'm saying 3 specifically because if there's 2 seagulls, you grab 2 of them. You can grab both of them
and just crack.
You can't do it. But if there's a 3rd one, what you gonna do?
You're trying to kill the other one and then grab the 3rd one.
Yeah, but I'm saying like simultaneously.
I'm saying...
I feel like you're not going to be able to get a hold of 2 of them while the other one's trying to fight you.
My point is, humans are the byproduct of generations of evolution. And you think 3 seagulls are going to take...
3 seagulls could take me out.
Okay, all right. I guess we'll leave that up for debate. But yeah.
So they chose a seagull as their mascot.
Yes.
Okay, interesting choice.
Staten Island Tech, even to this day, I consider it an amazing experience. A lot of people I know didn't like high school. I thoroughly enjoyed high school. I think it was...
It's one of the specialized ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you took the SHSCT and all
I
that.
did.
Okay.
Where did you go to high school again?
Queens High School for the Sciences at York College. Specialized high school in Queens.
Okay, all right.
Mine had the worst name. It had the longest name.
So I don't even know. Can you name all the specialized high schools?
Yeah, I can. I think I can. There's Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech, Staten Island Tech, QHSS, which was mine, Staten Island Tech. I said that.
You said that.
There's one that's at City College. I forgot the entire name, but there's another. It's just like mine, because mine was on the York College campus. There's another one that's a specialized high school on the City College campus.
Are you saying your college campus? York. Okay. Yeah. All right.
YORK.
Okay.
In Jamaica, Queens.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
You live by Jamaica, Queens, right?
Kinda. I lived in Richmond Hill, closer to Kew Gardens.
So you went to school in Jamaica, Queens?
Yeah, it was not the best neighborhood. Dude,
That's not a good area
I didn't think about it until when you're in not so great of a neighborhood, you don't think you're in not so great a neighborhood because you don't think about it until you leave that neighborhood.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that.
So when I was in high school, I never thought about it. Never really thought it was a big deal. Also, like in high school, you don't really know what's really out there. But that's not a good neighborhood. Even when I go back now, because the lure stops at Jamaica.
Yeah.
So and I don't have to go there at all anymore because now I live in New Hyde Park. But when I still lived in Richmond Hill, I'll get off at the Jamaica stop, and I would feel scared at my 20s.
Yeah.
I'd be there and I'd be like, I'm gonna get stabbed.
I've been to Jamaica enough to know that it's not the best place for a young kid.
In high school, I would just walk around all the time, like it was nothing. It does make sense. I got robbed at one point.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it wasn't the best neighborhood. But
I've never been robbed or jumped or anything. I've been in a fight. I've been in a couple fights.
Okay,
but I've never been robbed or jumped.
It's an experience. Yeah. It's an experience. It was something. I think with me, if I had not gotten robbed that one time, I don't think I'd be who I am today. It's not saying
that's definitely something that's life changing.
Changed my life. Yeah. Because after that, I started working out and all that stuff. But so I think those are all the specialized high schools. I don't think there's another one. There's 7 total.
Okay.
I think those are...
Yeah, I wasn't even aware. All I knew was the big name ones, like the Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech.
So did you want to go to Stuyvesant or any other ones? It was probably
No,
too
Staten
difficult.
Island. I didn't want to worry about commuting because I was relatively, I don't want to say immature, but I wasn't ready to take that big leap of independence. I guess I wasn't too independent where I felt ready to travel to the city every day. I did have one of my best friends growing up went to Xavier High School, which is in
Xavier. What is that?
It's a Catholic school. Okay. I believe it's in Manhattan, but he took the ferry every day, and that was one of the. So I also applied to 3 Catholic schools. So I only applied to Staten Island Tech for the specialized, and then.
So with the Catholic schools, were your parents the one that were more, kind of not enforcing, but like recommending going into them, or was it just like kind of like a natural, like this is just one of my choices, and I'm gonna apply to these two?
High school is definitely my choice, but going from kindergarten to 8th grade, I think my parents just put me there because I don't remember choose. I mean, I don't think you let a kid that young choose anyway.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays you never know.
Yeah. But I feel like if I wanted to leave at any point, they would have supported me. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I applied to 3 Catholic schools. There was St. Peter's Boys High School, Xavier.
Don't do that.
Oh yeah. And then the third one was Monsignor Farrell, and all those were all boys schools. So at the time when you're an 8th grader about to go into to high school, you don't want to go to an all boys.
You're not trying to go to all boys school.
Yeah. But the reason why I liked high school so much is I really feel like I found myself in high school. I feel like I found my passions at an early age.
Really? That's interesting.
I will say, for the first 2 or so years of high school, I was on a national level swim team. Okay. So I was heavily involved with swimming, and I didn't necessarily have time for anything else. We practiced 8 times a week. 2 times we would practice in the morning before school. Mm-hmm. So I actually started this in 7th grade. So in 7th grade, there were 2 times a week where I was waking up at 4:50 to go to practice at 5:15.
Yeah, there's some things in high school where you don't realize how disciplined you were until you come to college.
Yeah,
and then you
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And even like back then, because I was in 7th grade, it was optional for us, but like I was so like set on like so motivated that I went to both of them. Not even just one or anything. But yeah, that continued in high school for a little bit. And then I got injured, actually. And it wasn't like a cool injury. I didn't break a bone or anything. I perforated my eardrum, which is perforated my eardrum. So your eardrum, a little science for all of you. I'm sure you guys know this. There's this thing called a tympanic membrane, and it's
a tympanic membrane.
Yes. So it's this flat membrane in which sound hits it and it vibrates. Okay. And the reason actually that I injured myself wasn't even from swimming, and it wasn't from my national level swim team.
So how did you injure yourself?
So I was also part of a summer league swim team.
Okay.
I was on 3 different swim teams at points, but that's neither here nor there. So I was on a summer league team, and our team was like undefeated for 20-something years.
Damn.
And there was this one swim meet where I was on with a bunch of my friends who also swam on the travel team. And a lot of them were traveling because it was the summer. And, everyone considered like, we've been undefeated for a while. We'll be fine. And we lost a meet, which was huge. It was like, it was the talk of the swim community. Yeah. And the major reason why is because we didn't have a diving team, and they did. So the way it works is it's swimming and diving, and that's typically how colleges work too. So the divers go first, and then there's a certain score. So obviously, if you don't have a diving team, you start out at 0. But then the other team is starting out like 120 something.
So why is that allowed in the competition then? Like, why are you allowed to? Cause
if you can't recruit your own diving team, that's kind of your fault, not.
But then that's not. I would say that's not fair. Then
I know. I personally believe swimming and diving should be separated, but I guess it's too. I think swimming draws a crowd relatively, especially with the Olympics and Michael Phelps. He did a lot for swimming, but I think diving, they feel, would struggle to even attract a crowd, survive on its own. So it's kind of grouped together. Okay. I think that's the major reason.
But I think at least the scoring system should be grouped separately.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Doesn't make sense.
But it's because it's swimming and diving, that's how it works. So I actually joined the diving team in hopes I would be this miraculously good diver. With no diving experience. I mean, our pool had like a diving board and I would mess around a little bit. Mm-hmm. But on my first day of practice, I decided to go for a double, which is 2 flips. Okay. And the board's about 1 meter high, so it's pretty high. And I wasn't even close. I got 1.5, and then I realized I wasn't going to make it. So I was about to hit my face. I don't want to land straight on my face. So I tried to twist right at the end, so I would, land
on your shoulder.
Yeah, hit on my shoulder. But what I didn't realize is that, the water pressure came in to my ear at such a high velocity that it just tore a hole right through my eardrum.
That does not sound good.
Yeah, so I actually lost hearing in that ear for almost a year. And so I had 2 surgeries.
Did you get tinnitus? Or, no. It's when you get ringing in the ears, you know what I'm talking
about? Yeah, actually. So the way I describe it to everyone is when it first happened, I hit the water, I heard ringing, and I got up and everything was like all wobbly and everything, and it felt like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, where I was just trying to get out of the way, trying to survive, and trying to find cover. But yeah. So that kept me out of swimming for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, I want to say. And by then it was either in the middle of sophomore or junior year. And I mean, the thing was, there was a time where I was a promising swimmer. I mean, I ended up swimming for Boston College, which we can get into later. But after this injury, swimming is one of those sports where if you're not consistently doing it, you're falling behind.
Right.
That's why you have to practice 8 times a week. So at that point,
I remember the swimmers in my school, because our swim team, I don't know how good our swim team was, but we'd be bringing in trophies for like queens all the time. Yeah. But they'd be practicing like day in, day out all the time.
So by that time I was 2 years removed from the sport, and that's kind of when I got into weightlifting and bodybuilding, because that's all I could do. Which doesn't translate directly into swimming. There's actually very little correlation to your mass and how fast you swim. So I ended up I didn't have the best return. I struggled a lot. I tried to keep motivated, but it's like all my friends were up here and I was still down here. So at that point, I got more involved with my high school. And I actually, long story short, I joined a bunch of clubs, and I actually got involved with student government, which was really awesome. I will say, working with faculty at my school, because specialized high schools a little different than regular public schools. They genuinely care about you. They care about your success and where you're going after high school.
They have very specific teachers in one of those schools. They're way more accredited, and they care way more. Also, I think it's because I had this conversation with someone else where students in high school generally, like at that age, don't care that much. I think the ones that go to specialized high schools, like off the bat, are going to be the ones that care a lot more. Right. Because we had to take the test. That means our parents had to push us to take the test, or we had that initiative to go and take it. So, the cutoff is already existent. So the ones that are going to end up at those high schools are the ones that are going to care more.
On the topic of the SHSAT, what do you think about the SHSAT? Do you think it's a fair exam?
Yes.
See, I'm a little torn on, because there was a point where, so what I was getting into is I got into student government and I ran for president, and I eventually became president.
Okay. We'll go back to it. Don't worry.
So I had that in mind. While I was president, during my senior year, there was a huge controversy over the SHSAT, and a lot of newspapers were calling it unfair.
Why?
Okay, so it's kind of one of those. It's a privilege thing.
To take the SHSAT?
To prepare for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. All of the kids that went to my school, I think... 60% of my graduating class was like from immigrant families, and I think like 40% the entire grade was Korean. And like, I remember talking to those kids. Their parents sent them to prep school like from 6th grade, or like some 7th, like it was something outrageous, like from 7th grade, and they were prepping like for like day in, day out, every single day, hours of practice tests, and just learning as much as they could to do well in the test.
Personally, I didn't actually prepare, and I just got lucky.
Oh yeah, that's the same for me.
I do understand the argument that in poorer neighborhoods, these kids, their parents can't afford to send them to these prep classes because they're in the thousands of dollars.
They're very expensive.
Which is a lot of money just to prepare for a test for high school, not even college.
Yes, for me, it's I take back that I didn't study at all. My parents, I completely forgot about this. My parents did send me to like a prep thing, but it was for 3 weeks or 3 months. It was not that long.
I did one of those too.
Like the short ones.
Yeah, I also took it for granted because I didn't give it my full out effort.
I took I think one practice test. I did maybe some practice questions here or there, but I never really cared. I didn't, my parents didn't yell at me enough
Yeah.
about it, or I just didn't think it was that important at the time.
But there's people who don't have the same opportunities. Like, we were given that opportunity, we took it for granted. There's people out there who would have loved to have that chance.
Yeah.
And in general, the education system of this country is very flawed, and there's a lot of progress to be made
into that.
But I think recognizing that there are issues and stuff.
But this is where the issue occurs. Is what are you going to do instead of that? How do you replace the SHSAT with a system that will allow these same students that are more capable to end up in an environment that will facilitate what they can do?
So President Obama implemented a couple of changes not specifically for the SHSAT, but he implemented a couple of changes that kind of homogenized education in our country, which was the Common Core. The Common Core ultimately failed, and I was also on a council in which we talked about the Common Core a lot. And I don't want to say a flawed system because it has good intentions, but it was ultimately not successful. It's an imperfect system.
But I think you got to take it for what it is.
Yeah.
You can always make everything better. But it's difficult with how large a system it is.
Yeah. But now you have a lot of people on the other side of the spectrum who want to completely repeal it. And it's like that with a lot of things. Like, you look at something like Obamacare, which it's the good intention there, but it's flawed. And instead of improving, you have people who want to completely remove it. But anyway, going back to the SHSAT, also on the SAT for college, they made some changes recently.
It's at 1,600 now again.
Yeah, I can't list all the changes off the top of my head, but one of the major things is, Khan Academy, obviously. I almost guarantee everyone knows about Khan Academy. Yeah. So Khan Academy is now working in conjunction with College Board to... Really? Yeah, he posts SAT prep videos or something.
Yeah.
He has a whole course load of SAT prep.
So what is what are they doing together?
So now it's just there's easy access to anyone who has the internet can now prepare for the SAT, which is a lot better than I'm sure it's not. Well, actually, you know what? I don't doubt Khan Academy. I've never seen any of the SAT videos.
Used Khan Academy?
No, well, the SAT.
Okay.
But from what I've seen from his calculus videos, I don't doubt.
I think with Khan Academy, if he has the course that you need, you will learn everything from that you need for that course.
At the same time, though, I feel like Khan Academy is more geared towards high school almost. I don't think Khan Academy is the most helpful for a college student. I think it depends
on the class.
Yeah, I think it does.
On the class.
But
there's some things for me personally, when I was taking Calc 4 last semester, there's some things that I forgot.
I hated Calc 4.
I hated Calc 4. I hated differentials. I hated it so much. But there's some things though he didn't go to the same degree of what I needed to learn. Yeah. He explained a lot of the things that I didn't know, which helped. And so maybe some of it is from that base high school level, but I think a lot of it is also past high school.
And even regardless of that, what's his first Sal Khan?
Sal Khan, yeah.
What he's done is he's opened a complete market in online education. Yeah. I mean, it's existed before. But to the degree he's done it on his website and on YouTube, it's truly amazing. But yeah, he's an amazing entrepreneur. What initially got us?
SHSAT.
The SHSAT. Okay, so overall, I think the SHSAT is a flawed test. I think there has to be an exam. There's people who argue there shouldn't be an exam. It should be based on interviews and stuff like that. But when you're that young, that's way too much pressure on an interview.
That many people?
Yeah, that's way too much pressure on an interview.
It has to be a system that can be used on a large scale.
Yeah, and I think the test is a good system. It's just there needs to be... I don't know, I almost want to say prep classes should either be outlawed completely or they should be available to everyone. There needs to be a system where the people who can afford it aren't the only ones.
Because this is what I was saying. Prep classes, I see what you're saying. You're going to see a very big distinction and difference between those who took prep classes versus those who didn't.
Yeah.
But I think you can prep almost as well as a prep class without the prep class.
Yeah.
And this would go into the SAT. For the SAT, I didn't go to a prep class. But I had that big college book, SAT book.
Yep.
And I took a couple practices, maybe 2 to 3. But nonetheless, I did practice.
Yeah.
And I think that book was maybe $15, $25, something like that.
I see what you're saying, but I think also the older you get, the more mature you get, especially now in college. We're teaching ourselves pretty much everything from the textbook. But when you're younger, it's harder to teach yourself things.
But this is the second point that I would make, is that I think it's more dependent, not with the setup of the system itself, but how the parents go about it.
True. I agree with that. I 100% agree.
The prep classes, their parents put them in it. They didn't go out of their way to go into a prep class. Right. So I think the bigger problem is the difference in income for those families who can and cannot afford it. But again, with that, it's the parents have to be capable and willing to put their kids through whatever they need to go through. Yeah. Like for my parents, like they didn't have a whole lot of money, so they put me through the smaller course load. But they like pushed me, like you need to study, like you need to do these things to get into school. And I think there are a lot of factors that need to be taken into account, because every single family is has a different set of variables. Yeah,
I mean overall, the education system's flawed. No one knows the solution right now. I like to consider myself an entrepreneur, and I try to think about solutions, but it's hard.
It is difficult.
There's no good solution. But the fact that we're in a generation where we have these discussions and we talk about these things, that's the first step. Then you have the genius kid who does think of the solution, and that's how you make progress. But it starts with communication.
Yeah. So the point I was going to get into was the way you mentioned Salicon, like he revolutionized the methodology of teaching coursework online.
Right.
I think right now we're going to see that difference, and you can already see it with people that are entrepreneurs. It's way more common of people having startups, people doing their own thing, people just going out there learning whatever they want to learn, because almost everything's online. Like you literally, like I was talking to Alex's older brother the other day. And Alex's older brother was telling me about all the stuff that he's done. Right. And he goes, half of the stuff I learned, I just Googled it.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I know. So I'm currently a double major with AMS, which is Applied Math and Statistics.
I'm also AMS.
Yes. And I'm also Biomedical Engineering. And the reason why I took AMS is because I wanted a little bit of the business aspect of things, because I want to be biomedical and business, but business was too much to add on as a second major. And there are AMS classes that are geared towards business. But a lot of what I know about the stock market, real estate, or business in general for that matter, is from online. I taught myself. So I think, with the availability of information that our generation has, I think college is arguably becoming less important. From an education standpoint, but for a label, on your resume, it is still just as important as it used to be.
That's the exact same point that Keenan brought up. It's just a piece of paper. It's something to prove. It's that institutionalized form of proving yourself.
You need the degree. But it's no longer, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize that, and I think that's why interviews are so important. Yeah, a lot of people are realizing that a degree from a university doesn't mean much. You can have a kid who cheats his way through college.
Versatility, adaptability, and your capability. Yeah. Those are the things that
100%.
matter.
100%.
But let's go back all the way to perforating your eardrum, because that's where we started the rant.
Oh, right. So we went into high school. After I did that, so I became president.
So you're president for a while, so we got an SHC. So for your junior and senior year, you didn't do swimming.
I mean, I did kind of, but I moved down from the national level team to just the senior level team. Okay. Which I think they practiced only 7 times a week, or I guess because I was technically a part of it. 7 times a week, but the morning practices were optional, so there was less of that pressure. And obviously at that point, I was still swimming because I knew some colleges would still recruit me, but at that point I knew it wasn't something I wanted to pursue too much in college. I wanted to open the doors for me, but I didn't want to, hang around too much for it. But I guess I can go into a little bit of the recruitment process.
Yes, that's actually, I was going to go into that.
Yeah, recruiting was really fun. Recruiting, because it's a bunch of these different universities trying to literally get you to join them. Yeah. So they
feel like you have
they really flash all their strengths. And obviously, I'm not going to talk too much in detail about recruiting trips, but I went to SUNY New Paltz and what was the other one? Stevens Institute of Technology.
Sounds familiar. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very heavily engineering school, and I was very interested in both of them. And I went on an unofficial recruiting trip to Boston College because there was just so many rules with the NCAA and how it worked. And at that point, I actually had a friend who went there and was on the swim team. At that point, I realized that Boston College is one of the more serious places I would consider. Yeah. However, it wasn't first on my list. There were actually my top 2 colleges were Columbia University and NYU,
Okay.
And I personally thought I was a lock to get into at least one of them because, I don't want to brag or anything, but, I had good SAT scores, good grade in school. I was president, I swam. I was in contact with the coaches. However, I wasn't recruited or anything. It was just kind of, they were able to flag my application.
So you were considering Columbia and NYU also with consideration for swimming? Or was it more just for the college itself?
It was for the college.
Because the other ones you are more on the recruitment side.
Yeah.
For the sport. Okay.
So it was definitely just for the educational experience, but I contacted the coaches to help me get it.
Okay. But at this point, did you know that you wanted to be on the swim team, or were you?
I would have been fine not being on the swim team.
Okay.
I wasn't guaranteed a spot. Actually, I think I was guaranteed a spot on NYU. I don't remember. But Columbia, I wasn't guaranteed a spot.
Okay.
But Columbia was my dream school. I had been working towards Columbia since I want to say I was in like 6th or 7th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
That always shocks me that people have dreams of college so early on. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just the way I grew up, but I never thought about college at all. I remember being a senior in high school and everyone's applying to college. I'm like, I'm just going to put random colleges and maybe something will work out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is, none of it was from my parents. I never received any pressure from my parents growing up. I mean, granted, you always told me how important education was, but they never made me feel like I was pressured to do anything. I put a lot of the pressure on myself. I think it comes from just watching my dad's a very motivated man. My dad worked 3 jobs at one point. He would wake up at like 3 a.m., go to work, and he wouldn't get home until 8 p.m.
Damn.
So he was gone that long.
That's crazy.
I think just seeing, especially coming from an immigrant, I guess, father, not immigrant family, but just.
But it doesn't even matter if it's an immigrant or not. I always love bringing. It's one of the phrases Joey Diaz uses, and it just goes to the immigrant mentality. That mentality is like, I'm here. I just need to make something work out.
If you go back, I am an immigrant family. At a certain point. I mean, everyone from America is, which is what makes America so cool. But yeah, just watching my father's work ethic, I think, instilled a lot of those values in me. Ultimately, I got rejected from Columbia. I applied early decision, and then I got deferred, and then eventually rejected. And like that was crushing for me as a kid. And I remember my mistake was, and this might lead into why I didn't get into NYU. I tried really hard on my Columbia application and didn't try on any of the other applications. Not that I didn't try. But I recycled a lot of essays. I put all my eggs in one basket. And that's actually an important lesson I learned in life. If you look at something like the stock market, you don't put all your money in one stock. You diversify your interests. But yeah, so I got rejected from Columbia, rejected from NYU.
That's actually funny because I'm going to sound like a bum, but the reason I didn't even apply to any Ivy League schools is because they were supplemental essays. I just didn't even try. I was like, oh, you need me to prove more? I'm okay.
There's also arguably the point that I hurt my application by putting down that I'm Asian.
That's definitely. I
don't want to put the blame on that, but definitely at the time I did.
Yeah.
But it's whatever at this point. I didn't expect actually to get into Boston College, even though I was in contact with the swim coach. The application required an essay about Jesus's, because it's a Jesuit institution. So it's a Catholic university.
I just want to hear it one more time.
Jesuit.
Jesuit.
Jesuit. Jesuit.
What is that? Like just a form of Catholicism.
I think it's it's some sort of, it's under Catholicism is here. Jesuit.
Okay,
it's a
somewhere
subcategory.
Yeah, okay, got it.
But Jesuits are also a group of people. Like there were Jesuits on campus.
Okay. So you have to write an essay on what?
About the role of God and Jesus in your life.
That is a weird essay to write for college.
Yeah, so I
don't know how to feel about that.
I feel like my essay was so bad. Like it was like everything I do it for the Lord. Like that kind of So I don't know how I got accepted.
Everything I do is for Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus is my man. Anyway, I got accepted into Boston College and ultimately went there. Swam for a little bit.
Okay.
Ultimately, I always felt like a little part of me didn't belong at BC.
In terms of the environment?
In terms of the environment, I just felt like, because I was on scholarship,
Right?
Because it's
expensive.
It's a very expensive school.
Private university, and it's like 40.
Yeah, and I grew up in not the most comfortable economic standing, so I would not be going there if I didn't receive the generous scholarship I got. And I'm still thankful to BC to this day for giving me the opportunity and them having faith in me. So something just always felt like I was an outside. Even I had friends, like I had really good friends, and these are some still friends that I consider close to this day, even though, communication is hard.
Yeah. I mean, people could be, especially at this age, everyone's busy and worried and stressed and doing things.
Yeah. I had good friends who were genuine people, but still a part of me always felt like I was just an outsider. A lot of my friends would like to eat out at not extremely nice places, but nice places that I couldn't afford at the time. Yeah. So I would, they would either pay for me or I'd not go, and that's not a nice feeling.
You feel like you feel just not like left out. You just feel different.
Yeah.
Like you're like you just know that you're from a different circumstance.
Yeah.
And you feel like not the same.
Yeah. So I was actually pre-med while I was at BC. And I was actually doing very well. Like, there was a semester I had a 4.0. But between feeling like I didn't belong and... How deep do you guys usually get in these podcasts?
We get pretty deep.
Okay, so...
It really depends on the podcast. Because the last time with Goko, we were talking about, like, the randomest things. We're talking about relationships. Like, again, every single one is different. It's just depending on where we want to go. So we're going deep on this one.
All right, so you know this. So in conjunction with my sophomore year, I had a family emergency. My mother actually passed away. Yeah. And I was it was over the summer. I was on a research team that summer, and I was actually at BC when everything happened. So part of me, whenever after that summer, when I went back for the next semester, which was the fall semester of my sophomore year, part of me like just couldn't deal with that. Like, I specifically remember where I was when my father called me and stuff. And if I was walking down that same walkway, I would just, bring back feelings that I was not comfortable with. And at the same time, some of the advisors at BC suggested maybe I take a semester or two off. And I've never really believed in that. I believed in, because I've seen a lot of people who take time off and then never
come
go
back.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do that. So instead, I had always considered engineering. Stony Brook was one of the schools I applied to. I actually got accepted into the honors program, or is it the scholars program? So I ultimately decided I wanted to, especially because the reason my mother passed away was, it was kind of medical neglect. We don't have to get into it too much, but just seeing such an ugly side of the medical field, I didn't want to be in it anymore. Right. So I wanted to be an engineer. So I called Stony Brook, asked, because this was pretty late in the sophomore year, in the first semester of sophomore year, that I realized I wanted to transfer. So a lot of schools weren't even taking applications anymore. Stony Brook, it was definitely past the due date, but luckily, the head of the BME department was just very, very kind at the time, and we she had told me, because I also didn't take all the necessary prereqs to be accepted into the program.
Right. Because you were from a pre-med track.
Yeah, so the specific one was pre-med track at BC, you take physics your junior year. And one of the prereqs to get into engineering here was that you take physics. Yeah. So I didn't have that. So, I mean, ultimately, even though this lady seemed nice, she ended up not being the nicest, which I guess I can get into. So I transferred here. I was under the impression that, and, we had an agreement via communication on the phone, and we had email proof of this communication, that the way it was going to be is I was going to come here, I was going to take physics, and then be accepted into the BME program.
Okay. So
I came here, and my first semester here, I don't know if you remember my first semester here. I was...
You had red hair.
Yeah, I did, yes.
How am I going to forget the guy with red hair?
I was MIA a lot. I didn't go to a lot of classes. I didn't do much. So I did...
You transferred sophomore year, right?
Sophomore, in the middle of sophomore year.
Yeah, okay.
So this was spring semester sophomore year.
Yeah.
So I didn't really leave my room too often because, I was, you're pretty upset when you go through these things.
Yeah.
And I did pretty bad. I had like a 2.9 or something. So then the thing about that is none of my GPA credits or I mean my credits transferred over.
But your GPA doesn't.
My GPA doesn't transfer over. So I had like I want to say like a 3.6 something at BC, but that doesn't weight into my new GPA. So when I was trying to apply for the BME program, even though we were under the agreement that I would just take physics and then get in, she told me that, you know, your grades are way too low. You had a 2 something this one semester. So I had to, it was a process. Like I had to, because, you know, I transferred here under the impression that I was going to be in the program. Yeah. I wouldn't have transferred here if I knew I was going to get, like, I didn't want to continue as a biology major here, as I could have just stayed at Boston College to do that. So I think I contacted the president, I contacted a lot of the heads of the departments, and eventually, after, this was a year, almost a year, because I wasn't accepted into BME officially until
junior year?
The second semester of my junior year. So it was a whole year of just speaking to people and trying to, you know, showing these emails that had this proof and trying to like convince the president, whoever, like, I was under the impression I was going to be
already like in the department, not that I had to come here, prove myself, and then get into,
you know, and also I had to prove the point. And at this point, junior year, I was doing well again. So my grades were coming back up. Like, I think I'm back at like a 3.5 now. So I recovered. But I was trying to just make the argument that, you know, like when you go through such a tragedy, like you're not going to do well in school. Yeah. And the BME...
I mean, dude, getting a 2.9 after all of that, I think that's still remarkable. I mean, most people, I think, wouldn't be able to do school at all.
That woman was not understanding at all. But eventually, I finally got in. And I'm doing really well, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
I brought my GPA up, and it's looking pretty good. But yeah, so that's the story of how I got to Stony Brook. Yeah,
got to Stony Brook and how you got into BME. Yeah. And then when did you pick up AMS? You just picked it up like along the way, or just because like, a lot of overlap?
I just know a lot of people in BME do pick up AMS as double major. Yeah. The reasoning is we only need to take, I think, 15 additional credits, which is only 5 classes.
The AMS major is very small.
Yeah, so it's relatively easy to just add it, because a lot of our BME classes count as the non-AMS electives. Yeah. So yeah, I'm almost done. I think I only need 2 more classes for AMS, and then I'll have that degree, and then I have like 5 more.
So you have 1 more semester, right?
I have,
or like a couple more.
I could finish it in 1 semester. But the reason why I need to stay for the whole year, so I'm graduating a year late.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we have senior design, and it's a two-part course where you need to take 1 to get into 2. 1 is only offered in the fall, and 2 is in the spring. Okay. Yeah. So I would have had to take senior design this year, where I'd be in senior design too.
Okay.
Which wasn't possible with my schedule. Yeah. So ultimately, I am going to be here for another year. But it's actually good because...
you've got time to transition.
And I've also gotten a lot of time to figure out what I want to do. So I know now that I have AMS, I've gotten the business side of things, I know I want to eventually open my own, you know, technology engineering company. So, you know, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. So, you know, this entire journey from even the Catholic school, you know, to now, I think every event has led me to where I am today, and every event was significant. Yeah, and it's really cool. It's really cool to look back, and it's really cool to do this actually, because now I'm reliving my own life, which you don't if you think about it, you don't do it too. Yeah, exactly.
But
you don't do it too often.
When you really. And, you know, every time I have a guest on the show and then they leave it, they're like, wow, like you kept track of everything that was going on. It's because the way I put together the story, like when you're telling me everything, I'm putting a timeline in my head of like from day, like, you know, where you started to where you're going. Like, like all these events, like one leading into the next, and like how it just, you know, matches. Right. And all that. But it's everyone has their own story, and, you know, everything affects what you do. Yeah. But one of the questions I wanted to ask, this goes back to, I kind of want to get more into the difference between the 2 colleges. Okay. So like the difference between Boston College and Stony Brook.
There's stark contrast.
Because I think it's a big thing. I've talked to a lot of people that have transferred. So Luciano transferred from Stony Brook to Binghamton. You know, he had his reasons. And then one of our old friends, Tomas, we bring him up all the time. Yeah. Tomas transferred from here to Utah, and like he loves it out in Utah. So like the differences that you felt going from Boston College to Stony Brook.
Okay, so the first thing, I mean, let me note that Boston College is a private university. most students are paying $60-something thousand to go there. So they have more available funding for resources.
I've been on the campus. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's actually beautiful. For anyone who hasn't seen Boston College that's watching, just look up Gaston Tower.
Gaston Tower?
Boston College, yeah. It's the most beautiful thing, I think, in Boston, arguably. But aside from like architectural, from a faculty standpoint, and I always bring this up, it was almost there's a term cultural shock when you travel to another country or something, and just the culture is so different that it really overwhelms you. So from a professor perspective, the professors at Boston College cared. They genuinely cared, almost like the specialized high school. They genuinely that's a big their difference. Goal was to make you succeed. Like I have so many like professors in mind that were young, enthusiastic, and just genuine professors who loved their job. And then I came here, and a lot of the professors that I've had at least are on the older side.
They're like tenured, or
that's what I was about. They're tenured,
or
so they
like
just
aren't as invested.
Yeah. And it's also because Stony Brook's a research school, so a lot of them are here to do their individual research, and teaching is a thing on the side for them.
Because they also have, this is another thing, other than the tenured professors, we also have a lot of professors that were just, they're just graduate students.
Right. Yeah.
And, like, if you're a graduate student, you're busy doing your research or whatever. Teaching is kind of something you're just doing because it'll help you pay the bills.
And then from an advisor perspective, and this still blows my mind to this day. So I came in as a bio major, I said. There are 2 or maybe 1 advisors for the entire biology department.
That can't be accurate.
There's 1 or 2.
There's 1 or 2.
I believe there's 1, 2, maybe 3, but there's only a handful.
I don't want to believe that, but that sounds
the point is
possible for Stony Brook.
The advisor to student ratio is probably something like 1 to a couple hundred.
Probably 1,000.
Yeah.
Because honestly, just going to like a general advising for engineering, the wait takes forever.
Yeah.
There's like 10 people on the line, and it takes me like maybe an hour to finally get to talk to an advisor. And by that time they're like sick of seeing people. They're just trying to get you out. It's just like a revolving door in less than that. Like, I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with you.
Now, each advisor at Boston College had no more than 10 students. Granted, they weren't all, like a lot of the advisors here are like some of the heads of the department or something, or professors. There were people there. I don't remember. It's been a while. I think my advisor might have been a grad student. No. Actually, he was an employee of Boston College, but he wasn't a professor or anything.
Okay. But like their job was strictly advising?
Advising.
Okay.
So I knew him on a personal level. When I went to make my schedule, we would have lunch. He treated me to lunch.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What?
I was in contact with him. So my first semester here, actually, when enrollment came along, I didn't know because I was expecting to receive an email from my advisor like, enrollment's around, we got to meet or whatever so we can figure out your schedule and everything. That's just not the case here.
Not even close. That's blowing my mind that someone sat down with you, had lunch, and they would help you get your schedule. At Stony Brook, and this is a really important point, if you are not on your enrollment, on your schedule, constantly checking with your advisors, like on your own, cross-checking it with all the things online, and then double-checking it because sometimes everything's wrong, you're going to fall behind. You're not going to graduate on time. And I know a lot of people that got screwed over and didn't graduate on time because of that.
It's kind of sad. It's really sad. But again, it kind of ties into the whole state university versus private university, which is unfortunate. But from firsthand experience, seeing what it's like and seeing how much a university could care about you versus here, where, I almost want to just straight up say they don't care about the students here.
I don't think they do.
To them, it's about the profit, really.
I don't think
the money and the reputation they receive.
I think it's reputation. I want to say Stony Brook University cares a lot more than it should. Not that it should, but they care a lot more
about the reputation
than a lot of other universities about reputation. Like the same gender bathrooms. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think for Stony Brook having that, just being able to say that we have all gender restrooms.
Yeah. Gender neutral.
Yeah. There's something in the article. There's one way they phrase it, and I can't.
It's not gender neutral?
It is gender neutral.
Okay,
but I don't know what this is in the article.
Okay.
But having that, it's just a kind of, just a thing that they could say is like, It's just letting people know this is just another, facility that we have.
And I remember, and even still to now, I'm kind of just, it saddens me a little. It saddens me that, and it just ties into the whole, there's flaws in the education system of our country. It makes me sad that I'm at a school currently where whether I succeed or not
doesn't matter,
has no influence or impact on anyone from Stony Brook. Whereas at Boston College,
they went out of their way.
That's
insane.
Way to make sure you succeed.
Another good example is I went to the Career Center earlier this semester, and I asked this woman, I was like, "Oh, what should I do? On my last semester, I need some advice." And she goes, "Just try harder." I'm like, what do you like? I'm trying. I don't know what else to do. That's why I'm here. This is me trying harder. Like, you should be, helping me do something. Yeah. And she didn't provide anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. The people, when you make the effort here of going to an advisor or reaching out to the Career Center, you actually, first of all, you wait for about 30 minutes to an hour outside.
And that goes back to the whole under hiring for resources.
They're definitely understaffed. And, you wait an hour to speak with them, usually for 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah. And they don't help very much at all.
They just want to come in, say that they helped you, take off that mark, and then you're out.
It's sad. It's really sad. What other differences as far as... actually, one thing I will say on the differences of kind of independence, I am happy that I went from Boston to Stony Brook and not the other way around, because now I've become a lot... It does help you become more independent by not... Boston College really held your hand through everything.
Yeah.
Which is important. I mean, granted, I was only there freshman and a little bit sophomore year, so maybe they let loose a little bit.
That could be true.
But thinking back how much they held my hand through everything, it could kind of inhibit you to some degree, where now I realized in life from Stony Brook and from other things that, in life you're alone. I mean, you need to get things done. It's all on you. You can't expect anyone else to get it done for you. Anything that you want, you need to do. Yeah. And that can be things like working out, like that's applied throughout life in general. Like everything. If you want to get something done, you do it. It's all on you. You can't, there's no excuses or anything. It's on you to do it.
Yeah.
And I think Stony Brook really helped me realize that. So that is the one positive, I guess, I could take.
It's just not the best thing for people who start off with it without anything. Because it's really easy. Because I talked to Luciano about this, and when I talked to him, he was saying like he wasn't ready for college. Yeah. When you're coming in at 18, you're young still. Yeah. Like you're still pretty dumb. Yeah. I mean, like you don't know what you're doing. So making mistakes is easy. So I think for at least freshman, sophomore year, there should be a lot more guidance. Yeah. I think later on, you let them grow.
Yeah, you gotta let them grow.
But at first, you need a little guidance,
Yeah, and it's just it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate the way it is here, but here's hoping to 20 years from now it'll be different.
Yeah, we're loaded, driving around in nice cars. Yeah.
But
so I want to actually just end it off because we're coming in on an hour.
Okay, sure.
Last thing that I like talking about is like where you see yourself going with your career path. So you started, like starting a tech firm, and then entrepreneurship and all that stuff. So a little bit more on that. I know you were heavy on investing, so you could talk a little bit about investing.
Okay, yeah.
Not too deep into it. We'll talk a little bit about that.
So where I see myself a year from now versus or like 2 years from now versus like long term. In a couple of years, I do see myself working in the biomedical engineering industry, just a regular job, because it's just that safety net kind of. But long term, I do want to start my own company. I've always just felt like I've run things better when I'm in charge. When I
agree. I mean, I'm exactly like that. I want to be independently capable of holding myself to whatever I want to do, and I think it's more difficult. It's definitely more difficult, but I think I'm capable enough to do it, and it'd just be more satisfying to be able to do that.
So I mentioned the tech company. That's one of the things I want to own, kind of multiple companies, because if you look at some of the greatest CEOs like Elon Musk didn't just have the idea of Tesla or SpaceX. Yeah, he had many different ideas. So I've taken a lot of inspiration from the current successful CEOs. So I want to, it's all about, like I said before, and this is the lesson I learned from applying for college. You want to diversify your interests. So I want to own maybe a tech business, maybe another business. I want to also be involved in real estate. I want to also be heavily involved in investing. So I guess the question is, where don't I see myself in the future? I grew up where I was not financially stable for most of my life. So I've always had such a drive to just make a lot of money, just because I want my kids and, even further down generations to be okay. Yeah. But I don't want to spoil my kids. That's a side thing. But yeah, I've done everything I could, and I still continue to do as much as I can to learn about the opportunities and the best ways to make money. Life's not about money. I acknowledge that. I know there's happiness in other ways. But as far as career path, I do see myself doing a lot of different things.
Money is a way to get happiness.
Exactly.
Money doesn't necessitate or guarantee happiness, but it's nice to be, have that baseline, the comfort, and know that you'll be okay before you start going for all these other endeavors. Because if you're making money and you have a salary, you could start doing other things. You know,
and that's why I want to start with the job first.
Yeah, exactly.
To open the doors for the companies and investing and everything. Yeah. But hopefully, eventually, I don't have to be working for someone else, and I can be working my own job, where I'm my own boss, or I own my own properties, or I own stocks. And, I'm in full control of everything.
And do you? Okay, that's cool. That's more familiar with me, entrepreneur mindset. Yeah. And then the last thing I like having my guests do is, if you could say, and I guess you had something familiar, but if you could say like one quote or something that's like you think is really important, that should be a takeaway for everyone from like your life lessons. And like I said, you kind of went into that with what you said before, but like I like having you say like one quote to end it off with.
I do have a good quote, and this is arguably my favorite quote. And I heard it from New York Mets third baseman David Wright.
Okay.
And it's, if what you did yesterday is still as big today as it was yesterday, then you obviously haven't done much today.
Do you mean like the pile of work you have, or?
No, just in general. And the meaning of that is, if what you did yesterday is still as big today as it was yesterday, then clearly, if you're bragging about your accomplishments from yesterday and all you did yesterday, and you're not continuing to work and do more, if you should be living in which each day you want to top what you did the day before.
Okay.
That kind of mentality.
All right. Yeah, that makes Yeah. That's a good quote. I like that one. Yeah. Okay. But that wraps it up. Thank you for being here, Greg. It's episode number 27. Thank you for the 3 people that were watching. I think Erica was one of them. So thank you for watching, Erica. Peace out.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yeah, without a doubt.